I was 3 weeks into lockdown when the knock came. Not the friendly kind. Not the impatient rattle of a neighbor's fist. This was slow, deliberate, like someone pressing their knuckles against the wood just long enough for me to hear. Then waiting. And waiting. I shouldn't have answered it, but I did. The street outside was dead silent. I lived alone in a 2-story house, curtains drawn, groceries stacked in crates by the kitchen, windows taped against drafts. My world had shrunk to these rooms and the flicker of a television I barely watched. I'd started counting the hums of my refrigerator just to pass the hours. So when someone knocked, 3 careful thuds at nearly midnight, I froze. My first thought wasn't ghost. It was human, which in those days might have been worse. You have to understand, nobody was supposed to be near anyone. Nobody was supposed to stand within 6 feet, let alone come to your door. That was the rule, the one thing drilled into us until it became instinct. The knock broke that rule, and rules were all we had left to keep the panic from swallowing us whole. I held my breath, waiting for another knock. None came. Only silence, thick enough I could hear the ceiling fan's dry squeak overhead. That's when the second thought hit me. If it wasn't human, what was it? I peeked through the peephole. Streetlight washed the pavement in sickly yellow. The sidewalk was empty. Not even a raccoon darting past. But the porch, my porch, was shadowed enough that if someone stood still, pressed against the wall, I might not see them. I whispered, "Hello?" The sound seemed too loud in my own house. No answer. I was about to step back when I noticed something strange. My breath fogged against the peephole glass. It shouldn't have. It wasn't cold. The house was warm, stale from weeks of sealed windows. Yet the lens had frosted slightly, as though pressed against a freezer door. That tiny patch of frost slid downward, like someone's exhale from the other side. My stomach clenched. I backed away fast, nearly tripping over the rug. I thought about calling someone, anyone. But who? My parents were 3 states away. My friends scattered and locked inside their own apartments. Even if I called, what would I say? A stranger knocked, but I didn't see them? A peephole breathed back at me. I didn't call. I just waited. Minutes stretched. The refrigerator kicked on. A dog barked far off, one of those desperate howls that echo too long. I tried to convince myself it was my imagination, cabin fever, a mind gone soft from endless days of silence. And then the knock came again. This time it was louder, like bones against wood. The sound rattled through the frame and thumped in my chest. I shouted, "Who is it?" My voice cracked. The answer came, thin and rasping, like wind forced through a throat that hadn't used words in years. "I need medicine." Not food, not help, medicine. I didn't know which scared me more, that someone might be genuinely sick outside my door, or that something not human had learned the right word to use. I pressed my palm against the door, feeling its vibrations fade. The wood was cold, colder than it had any right to be. If you were me, I'd ask you now, would you have opened that door? Because I almost did. Every instinct in me wanted to unlatch the deadbolt, to drag whoever it was inside and shove pills or syrup into their hands just to make the knocking stop. But another part of me, the animal part, kept whispering, "Don't open it. Don't open it. Don't open it." The silence stretched again, but it wasn't empty this time. I could hear breathing, faint and wheezing, as though pressed right against the wood. Each inhale sounded wet. Each exhale dragged longer than the last. I whispered, "What kind of medicine?" The voice answered instantly, too fast, like it had been waiting for me to ask. "The kind you take when the fever burns your body and your lungs stop working." My knees weakened. That was the sickness, the one crawling across the world on invisible legs, the one filling hospital beds and coffins. Whoever was outside knew exactly what words would carve fear deepest. I didn't respond. Couldn't. Then came the sound that still wakes me sometimes. Nails, not fingers, scraping slowly down the door. 5 long drags, like claws testing the grain. They stopped just above the handle. I stumbled back into the hallway, part hammering, certain the latch would turn on its own. My hand hovered over my phone. Call someone, anyone. But my thumb wouldn't move. I felt paralyzed by the idea of naming it aloud. Because once spoken, it would be real. The scraping stopped. I thought it was over, until the voice whispered again, quieter now, like it had leaned down to the keyhole. "Please, I don't want to die. Again." The last word broke me. Again. I stood in the dark hallway, the air thick and wrong, realizing whoever, whatever, was outside hadn't come for pills. It hadn't come for help. It had come for me. And as the silence thickened around that single word, I realized I wasn't alone in my house anymore, because something moved upstairs. The creak came from the second floor, my bedroom floor. I froze at the base of the stairs, every muscle screaming to run, but my legs anchored me there like I was bolted to the carpet. You ever hear a sound so out of place it hijacks your body? That was it. That one plank moaning under weight it hadn't felt in weeks. I hadn't been upstairs since morning, and I sure as hell wasn't now. Yet something moved above me. The knock at the door hadn't stopped me breathing, but that step upstairs did. I whispered, "Hello?" But it came out more like a plea than a challenge. Nothing. For a heartbeat, I thought maybe I'd imagined it. Old houses groan, right? They stretch, they settle. But my house didn't stretch at midnight, and it didn't settle in the exact rhythm of a footstep. The silence thickened, as if even the night outside was holding its breath with me. Then another step, heavier this time, dragging just slightly. Not quick, not human. That's when I realized whatever was outside had gotten in without opening the door. I backed into the kitchen, grabbed the first thing I could find, a knife, dull from months of not cooking real meals. I clenched it so hard the handle squeaked against my sweaty palm. Upstairs, the footsteps paused. Then a new sound. Breathing. Slow. Labored. Wet, like lungs leaking water. I wanted to call someone. The police, maybe. But what would I even report? A ghost needs medicine? They'd think I'd cracked from isolation. Maybe I had. Still gripping the knife, I forced myself to the bottom of the stairs. My throat burned from holding my breath. I tilted my head, trying to track the sound. The breathing was near my bedroom. I was sure of it. The stairs groaned when I put my foot on the first step. The breathing stopped instantly. I froze, waited. Nothing. Then, soft as wind through leaves, came the whisper. "Don't look at me." I nearly dropped the knife. The voice wasn't outside anymore. It wasn't muffled through wood. It was in my house. directly above me. And worse, it sounded scared. That's what rattled me most. Whatever was up there, whatever was scratching at my door minutes ago, it wasn't taunting me now. It was warning me. Every instinct screamed to run. But where? Out into the night, where the streets were dead and the air itself felt poisoned? Or upstairs, into the jaws of whatever was waiting? I backed away slowly, step by trembling step, until I was back in the kitchen. My phone sat on the counter. I grabbed it, unlocked it with shaking fingers, and dialed 911. The call never went through. Just static. Thin, whispering static that almost shaped words if I listened too hard. I hung up. Tried again. Same thing. On the third try, I swear, I heard someone breathing on the other end. Then a faint whisper, "Don't open it." I dropped the phone like it had burned me. The silence after that was unbearable. Every second stretched until my pulse became the loudest sound in the room. I glanced at the door, still locked, deadbolt shining in the porch light. I checked the windows, sealed tight. So how was it upstairs? I thought about the attic hatch, the crawl space vents, all the dark corners I hadn't looked at in years. My imagination sprinted through possibilities, but none explained the voice. None explained the frost on the peephole. Then, another sound, not from above this time, from the front door. A knock. 3 heavy thuds, just like before. I stared at the door, knife trembling in my hand, phone buzzing faintly on the counter like it wanted to crawl away. The voice outside was back. "I still need medicine." And from upstairs, almost on top of it, the second voice answered. "No, you can't come in." 2 voices, one inside, one outside. I don't know which chilled me more. I staggered back until my shoulders hit the refrigerator. My whole body shook, sweat dripping down my temple into my eyes. I blinked hard, but the sight didn't change. The deadbolt unmoving, the wood rattling with each knock, the ceiling above me sighing with that impossible breathing. The voices overlapped, one desperate, one pleading. Outside, "I need it! I need it now!" Inside, "You'll kill him! Leave!" I couldn't make sense of it. 2 versions of the same thing, fighting over me, using my house as the line between. The knocking grew harder, faster. The upstairs footsteps began again, slow but steady, pacing above me. My heart jackhammered. I couldn't think straight. All I knew was I had to choose: open the door and face what was outside, or climb the stairs and face what was inside. Neither felt survivable. The air grew thick, heavy with the smell of damp earth, like fresh graves after rain. I gagged, clutched the counter for balance. My vision swam. Then silence. Both voices stopped at once. The knocking ceased. The footsteps froze. The quiet pressed in until I thought my skull would crack. And then the upstairs voice whispered, right into my ear, though I was alone in the kitchen. "You already let it in." I spun, knife slashing at empty air. Nothing, just the hum of the refrigerator. But my skin crawled, like invisible fingers had brushed my neck. I bolted for the front door, fingers fumbling the deadbolt. I didn't care anymore. Outside, inside, didn't matter. I had to get out. The lock clicked. I yanked the door open and froze. The porch was empty, street silent. No one there, but on the ground, right where a body should have stood, lay a bottle of pills. The label was smeared. My name was written on it. The bottle sat in the center of the porch, like it had been placed there carefully, almost reverently. Amber plastic, white cap, label warped by dampness. But the letters spelling my name, my full name, were clear enough to punch the air from my lungs. I didn't have prescriptions. I wasn't sick. I'd never needed anything like that in my life. So why did the bottle look old, worn like it had been rattling around in someone's pocket for years? I crouched, knife still in one hand, phone clutched in the other, staring at it. Every instinct said don't touch it, but curiosity, it was like a hook in my gut, pulling me closer. I had to know. I reached for it. The plastic was cold, ice cold, as if it had been stored in a freezer. My skin prickled with gooseflesh that had nothing to do with the night air. I twisted the cap. It clicked open too easily, like someone had loosened it beforehand. Inside were white pills, oval, scored down the middle. They smelled faintly sweet, almost like overripe fruit. I turned the bottle, squinting at the instructions on the ruined label. The text was faded, but a few words stood out. Take one every night before sleep. The date printed at the bottom was worse. A year before lockdown. My hand shook so badly, pills almost spilled onto the porch. I jammed the cap back on, shoved the bottle into my pocket, and slammed the door shut. The deadbolt scraped home. And then I heard it again. Breathing. Upstairs. I leaned against the door, chest heaving. The knife felt stupid now, like bringing a butter spreader to a war. I gripped it tighter anyway. From above came a faint dragging sound. Footsteps. Pacing. Then, without warning, 3 sharp knocks on my bedroom door. I choked on air. It was mocking me, I thought. I'd heard it at the front door. Now it echoed it upstairs, like the house itself was a drum it could play. And then it spoke again. The upstairs voice. Don't take them. I nearly dropped the knife. My brain kept twisting around the contradictions, but nothing lined up. The outside voice had begged for medicine. The inside voice warned me against it. Both said they didn't want me to die. Neither made sense. I whispered, "What are you?" Silence. My mouth went dry. Why me? Still nothing. I stood there, trembling in the half-light of my kitchen, listening to the faint shuttle above. The clock on the microwave clicked to 1:13 a.m. Time dragged like a nightmare you can't wake from. The silence broke when my phone buzzed against the counter. I nearly screamed. The screen lit with a number I didn't recognize, 12 digits long, too many for any real contact. My thumb hovered. Answer or not? If I didn't, would it just keep ringing until I broke? I swiped, pressed it to my ear. Static hissed. Then a voice, whisper thin. You've already started taking them. I ripped the phone away, staring at the glowing numbers like they burned through my skull. My stomach churned, bile rising. Already started? I hadn't swallowed anything. But the way the voice said it, like a fact, not a threat, dug under my skin. I checked my pocket. The bottle was still there, cold, heavier now, somehow. The phone went dead in my hand. I hurled it onto the couch, chest heaving, heart trying to hammer out of my ribs. My reflection stared at me from the black TV screen. Wide eyes, face slick with sweat, knife trembling in my hand. Behind me, in that reflection, I saw movement on the stairs. Something pale. I spun, knife raised. The stairs were empty, but the smell hit me, sour, metallic, like pennies soaked in rot. It wafted down from the landing. My eyes watered. Then, soft as a sigh, "You can't run from what's in your blood." The voice came from everywhere at once. I staggered back, nearly tripping over the rug, knife slashing at air. The sound of footsteps followed me into the living room, creaking wood in perfect rhythm with my own backing steps. I wanted to leave, but my keys were upstairs, in the nightstand drawer, beside my bed. The same bed now guarded by whatever paced my room. The walls seemed to close in, the air thick and heavy, until I thought my lungs might collapse. My mind whispered escape plans, each more desperate than the last. Smash a window, leap into the yard, run barefoot through the dead streets. But then what? Carry the bottle? Leave it behind? Would it follow either way? The thought twisted my stomach. That's when the upstairs door slammed. The boom rattled the ceiling, dust raining down. The footsteps stopped. Silence stretched like a rope ready to snap. I held my breath. Then, scratching. Not claws this time. Not nails. Something finer. Softer. Like pencil on paper. It was writing on the other side of my bedroom door. I knew it without seeing. The sound was unmistakable. Letters forming, dragging into words. My skin crawled as if I could feel each stroke carved into me instead of wood. And then the voice. Two voices overlapping now, inside and outside at once, spoke together. Look at what we've written for you." I didn't want to. Every nerve screamed against it. But my eyes rose anyway, as if dragged by invisible strings, and locked on the ceiling above me. And there, etched in fresh black grooves through the plaster, were the same words I'd just heard. "Look at what we've written for you." The grooves dripped something dark. Not ink, not paint. Blood. Blood shouldn't drip upward, but that's what it looked like. Thick beads pushing through the ceiling plaster, swelling, then dropping. Heavy and warm onto my face. The first drop splattered my cheek. It was hot, fresh, metallic. Not old stains, not illusion. Real. I wiped it away with the back of my hand, but the smell clung. Copper and rot, sharp enough to sting my sinuses. More drops followed, pattering across the coffee table, soaking into the rug. I stumbled back, gagging, knife still useless in my hand. My gaze locked on the black grooves carved into the ceiling. "Look at what we've written for you." Another drop struck the bottle of pills in my pocket. I swear I felt it vibrate against my thigh, like the plastic was alive. I pulled it out. The amber plastic gleamed wet under the falling drops, label smeared darker now. When I tilted it, the pills inside rattled, except the sound wasn't right. Too wet, too heavy. I unscrewed the cap before I could stop myself. The pills weren't pills anymore. They had softened, melted into pale, fleshy lumps. Tiny teeth jutted from some. Others split open to reveal veins, twitching like worms caught in salt. Dropped the bottle, and it rolled under the couch, leaving a smear of something red. That's when the scratching upstairs stopped. Silence pressed down, heavier than before. The only sound was my ragged breathing, the patter of blood, and the faint rattle of those knot pills under the couch. Then, footsteps. Not upstairs this time, not pacing above. On the stairs, coming down. I gripped the knife harder, my knuckles bone white. Each creak was measured, patient, deliberate. Whatever was descending wasn't rushing me. It knew it had me cornered. When the steps reached the bottom, I expected a figure, a shadow, something. But nothing moved. The air, though, it shifted, thickened. My ears popped like the pressure had changed. And then a whisper, low and broken, slid into my ear though no one stood near. "You're already taking it." The words crawled into my skull. I staggered sideways, slammed into the fridge, smearing blood across the stainless steel. I shouted, "Taking what?" My voice cracked like a child's. Silence, only my heartbeat, racing. I thought about running again, smashing the back door, sprinting into the dead night. But something in me knew the house wasn't the trap. I was. Whatever this was, it had its claws in me already. I don't know what made me look at the TV screen. Maybe instinct, maybe some invisible tug. But I turned and saw my reflection again. Only it wasn't my reflection. The figure staring back at me from the black glass wasn't moving in sync. It was me, but pale, hollow-eyed, lips cracked. My reflection opened its mouth while I hadn't. "I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request." I don't remember deciding to climb the stairs, but suddenly my hand was on the banister, my foot on the first step. The smell hit me again, rot and iron, thicker now, drifting down from above. Each creak underfoot echoed like a gunshot in the silence. I kept climbing, heart pounding against my ribs, sweat dripping into my eyes. The chewing grew louder, wetter, punctuated by small gulps. At the top, I hesitated. My bedroom door was shut. Dark liquid seeped from the crack at the bottom, pooling on the hardwood. Something was in there, eating. I pressed my ear to the door. The chewing stopped, and then from the other side, a whisper, muffled but unmistakable. "Open it and it's yours." I staggered back, bile burning my throat. My vision blurred with panic. Whatever was inside wasn't just there. It was waiting for me, inviting me. The floor creaked behind me. I spun, fists up, and nearly dropped dead on the spot. Something pale crouched at the far end of the hallway. Human shape, but wrong. Too thin, joints bent sharp where they shouldn't. Its head tilted like a broken doll. Even from that distance, I could see its mouth. Wide, stretched, teeth too many, too sharp. And they were moving, grinding, chewing. My knife was gone. The TV had eaten it. My phone was dead. I had nothing. The thing twitched like a glitch in reality, then crawled forward, joints snapping as it moved. I bolted for the bedroom door. No thought, just instinct. I yanked it open and froze. The room was empty. No figure, no thing, just my bed, sheets soaked in something black, my nightstand overturned. But on the mattress, laid out carefully, was a message written in blood. "You're running out of time." Behind me, the hallway floor groaned. I didn't want to turn around. Every nerve screamed against it. But the sound kept coming. Floorboards groaning one after another, closer with each heartbeat. I spun anyway. The hallway was empty, but not silent. From the walls, a low hiss seeped out, like the sound of steam bleeding from pipes. Except it wasn't steady. It rose and fell, carrying syllables. I could almost make out words. My name stretched thin, broken into whispers. I backed into my room, breath ragged. The mattress behind me squelched wet, as my legs hit it. I glanced down. The blood writing was gone. Just soaked fabric, dark and pulsing like it was breathing. I couldn't stay here. Couldn't leave either. Every exit was a mouth waiting to swallow me. The hiss sharpened. Now I could hear it clearer. Take it. Take it. Take it. The bottle. I dropped it downstairs. But when I reached into my pocket, it was there again. Cold. Heavier than before. I held it up in the faint glow from the streetlight, leaking through the blinds. The pills weren't pills anymore. Those fleshy lumps twitched against the plastic, pressing little ridges like fingers searching for a way out. The hissing deepened. More voices now, layered, whispering the same word over and over. Take it. Take it. Take it. I pressed the bottle against the window glass, like maybe I could throw it out into the street. But the reflection stopped me. My reflection in the glass wasn't me. It was the pale thing from the hallway, crouched, its head tilted, mouth yawning wide. In its hand, it held the same bottle, except in its version, the bottle was empty. Its grin widened as if to say, "You will." I stumbled back, clutching the thing tight without realizing. The bed moaned behind me. Not creaked, moaned. Something rose under the sheets, the fabric lifting, swelling like something huge exhaled beneath. I dropped the bottle and staggered back toward the door. The sheets split open in the middle, not tearing, but parting, revealing a shape beneath, an arm, thin gray, veins bulging black. A hand reached out, fingers trembling, and then the voice, raspy, wet, so close I felt the air move with it. "Please, I'm sick. Help me." The hand clutched at the sheets like a dying man reaching for water. I should have run. I knew I should have. But the sound of that plea, it hooked me, made me hesitate. The hand twitched, then went limp, falling back beneath the sewed sheets. The bed deflated. Silence. I edged toward the door, every muscle quivering. My foot kicked the bottle on the floor. It rolled, knocking against the nightstand with a hollow talk. The sheets exploded. The hand shot out, seizing my ankle with a grip like iron. Ice surged up my leg, a freezing rot that gnawed into the bone. I screamed, kicking, stabbing down with my heel until I tore free. The bed convulsed like something alive, the sheets thrashing, splattering black liquid across the walls. I bolted into the hall, slipping on the slick floor, slamming. Shoulder first, into the wall. Pain sparked white, but I kept moving, stumbling toward the stairs. Behind me, the bedroom door slammed shut on its own. The house shook. I tripped halfway down the stairs, crashed onto the landing, and lay there gasping, ears ringing. That's when I realized. The whispers were gone. No hissing, no chewing, no footsteps. Just silence. Too much silence. I staggered into the living room, eyes darting everywhere. Empty. No pale figure. No dripping blood from the ceiling. Even the cracks in the TV screen were gone. Smooth black glass staring back at me. It was like none of it had happened, except the bottle was in my hand again. I didn't remember picking it up, didn't remember holding it, but there it was, heavier than ever, cold enough to burn my skin. My reflection in the TV smiled. My real mouth didn't, and then the phone buzzed again. I jumped, nearly dropping the bottle. The screen glowed with that impossible 12-digit number. Against every instinct, I answered. The voice on the other end was calm this time, clearer, You're weakening. I couldn't speak. You've breathed it in already. It's in your blood. The pills aren't medicine. They're anchors. Take them and you'll stay. Refuse them and it will take you anyway, I croaked. What are you? The static thickened, a storm roaring through the line. Then a single word hissed through. Patient. The call cut out. My stomach turned to ice. Patient? Was that what this was? A ghost from the pandemic? Someone who'd begged too late, died alone, clawed for medicine that never came. But that didn't explain why it had my name, why it wanted me. The air shifted again, pressure bending my ears. My reflection in the TV lifted the empty bottle, tilted its head, and swallowed. And upstairs, where I'd just fled from, the chewing started again. Louder this time, wet, relentless. Not one mouth, many. The house vibrated with it, the walls flexing like lungs inhaling. And then, layered over the sound, a chorus of voices whispered together. Your turn. The chewing filled every corner of the house. It wasn't just sound, it was vibration, a wet gnawing that rattled through the walls, the floor, the glass of the windows. My teeth buzzed with it, like the noise was inside my jaw. I clutched the bottle tight. My fingers had gone numb, but I couldn't let go. Every time I tried to loosen my grip, the plastic seemed to fuse tighter to my palm, like it wanted to stay. The voices overlapped again. Some pleaded, some commanded, some wept. Take it. Don't take it. You'll die. You won't die. It was like a crowd shouting different directions all at once. And then one voice broke through. The same one I'd heard outside my door on the first night. Thin, desperate, human. Please, if you don't, you'll end up like me. I staggered toward the kitchen, needing space, needing air. But the air was heavier there, thick and sour. The fridge hummed wrong, like it was groaning under a weight. I yanked the door open for light and instantly gagged. It was filled with bottles. Not water, not milk, all pill bottles, hundreds of them stacked, labels warped, names smeared, but every one carried my name. My knees nearly gave out. I stumbled back, slammed the fridge shut, but the buzzing hum followed, higher pitched now, almost a whine. The chewing upstairs grew frantic, urgent. And then, footsteps, not slow this time, fast, heavy, charging down the stairs. I froze, bottle clutched against my chest, waiting for the pale figure to appear. But nothing came. Just the sound, pounding down, shaking dust loose from the ceiling. The moment the sound hit the bottom step, the lights flickered out. Darkness swallowed me whole. I could still hear it though. The thing on the stairs. The sound of its weight shifting, one foot dragging slightly, breath heaving like broken bellows. I held my breath, every muscle rigid. Then something brushed my arm. Not claws, not bone, soft, like fingertips. I screamed and lashed out blindly, the bottle slipping from my grip. It clattered across the floor, rolling into the dark. The chewing above stopped instantly. Silence slammed down like a lid. And then, hundreds of whispers. All around me. From the floor, the walls, the ceiling. You dropped it. You dropped it. You dropped it. I scrambled on my hands and knees, clawing at the floor, searching. My fingers brushed the plastic, and before I could grab it, something else did. A hand. Cold. Thin. It snatched the bottle and pulled it back into the dark. No, My voice cracked into a sob. The hand reappeared, shoving the bottle against my chest, hard, enough to knock me back. Take it! The voice was right next to my ear, not angry this time, begging. I shoved myself up, heart jackhammering, and staggered toward the living room window. My only thought was escape. Smash the glass. Run. Get out before the chewing started again. But the window was no longer glass. It was a mirror, and in it I saw myself, but sick, hollow-eyed, skin gray, lips purple. My chest rose and fell with ragged breaths. I lifted the bottle in the reflection. My reflection swallowed. The whispers rose. See? You're already taking it. I punched the glass. It didn't break. My knuckles split instead, blood smearing the reflection's mouth like lipstick. That version of me smiled. Behind me, the chewing began again. This time, from the floor itself. The boards beneath my feet rippled, softening like flesh. Something gnawed from underneath, teeth scraping the wood. I stumbled back toward the stairs, toward the sound I'd run from before. Because in that moment, I realized the choice wasn't inside or outside. It was now or later. Swallow the pills, join the whispers, or refuse and be eaten. The house shuddered. Blood seeped from between the boards, warm against my bare feet. And then the phone rang again. I almost didn't answer. But the sound cut through the madness, sharp and shrill, grounding me. I snatched it up. The same impossible number. A voice, calm, steady. You have until dawn. After that, it won't ask anymore. The line went dead. I stared at the bottle, clutched white-knuckled in my hand. My reflection smiled at me from the window. The chewing swelled, the floor bulging beneath my feet, and I realized I wasn't deciding if I'd take them. I was deciding when. I sat on the stairs with the bottle in my hand and the dark pressing close, waiting for dawn like a prisoner waits for the firing squad. Every tick of the unseen clock felt louder than my heartbeat. The chewing moved in waves now, sometimes overhead, sometimes beneath the floor, sometimes at the very edge of my hearing, like it was inside the marrow of my bones. The smell was unbearable. Sweet rot, hospital disinfectant, old blood. My lungs worked like bellows, but the air never tasted clean. And the bottle, it pulsed. Not a trick of my grip. It actually throbbed, like a vein under skin. Every few seconds, I swore I could feel something inside rattling, clawing to get out. I whispered to myself to stay sane. It's just medicine, that's all. Just medicine. But I couldn't shake the image of the fridge packed with bottles, each one branded with my name. I kept thinking, how many times had I already taken them? Was I trapped in some endless loop of swallowing, dying, waking up to swallow again? The whispers were cruel now, not begging, mocking. You're not sick. You're dead already. You're not him. You're just the shell he left. Take it. Take it. Take it. At some point, exhaustion dragged me under. My head drooped forward against the banister, the bottle still pressed against my chest. And I dreamed. I was standing outside my house, except it wasn't mine anymore. The windows were boarded, the lawn overgrown, the door chained shut. A crowd of figures stood on the porch. Not people, shadows, each one clutching a bottle like mine. They raised them high and shook them, a rattling chorus of plastic and pills. Then we all turned their heads toward me, and they knocked. All at once, the sound was thunder. I woke with my throat raw, realizing I was screaming. The bottle slipped from my grip, rolled 2 steps down the stairs, and stopped. The chewing stopped with it. Complete silence. I didn't want to move. My body felt paralyzed, like the house itself had pinned me down. But my eyes locked on the bottle. Even in the dark, I knew it was staring back at me. Then the front door creaked open. Slow, careful. I waited for the pale figure, for the knock, but no one stood there. The doorway gaped like a mouth, swallowing the night beyond. And from outside, footsteps, bare, dragging, coming closer. I grabbed the bottle and bolted up the stairs. The chewing returned instantly, furious this time. As though the thing beneath the floor was chasing me, I slammed my bedroom door, pressed my back against it, and held the bottle like a weapon. My breath came in shallow, painful bursts. Then, another knock. Not on the door to my room, on the inside of my closet. 3 sharp raps. I stared, unable to move, as the door shuddered with each strike. The whispers rose again. Hundreds of voices, all tangled. But one stood out. Clear, sharp, familiar. My own voice. Don't open it. The closet rattled. The knob twisted. And in the crack beneath, I saw fingers. Thin, trembling, too many joints. They hooked around the edge and began to pry. My chest tightened. My skin went cold. Because I realized something terrible. They weren't trying to get out. They were trying to pull me in. The bottle pulsed in my hand, harder now, almost frantic, and the phone on my nightstand rang. One last time. The ring cut through everything. The chewing, the whispers, the rattling closet door. It was sharp, metallic, endless. I lunged for it like a drowning man breaking surface. The screen glowed in the dark. Same impossible number. My hand shook as I lifted it. This time, there was no pause. A voice slid through immediately, low and steady, like it had been waiting on the other end the whole time. You can't fight it anymore. I swallowed, throat dry as dust. What is it? What do you want from me? The voice didn't hesitate. It doesn't want anything. It wants to be. You're the door. The pills are the key. Behind me, the closet shuddered violently. The wood groaned, hinges squealing. The fingers beneath the door clawed deeper, splinters snapping under their nails. I won't take them, I whispered. Silence. Then, laughter. Quiet, joyless. You already did. The call cut off. I dropped the phone. My pulse hammered so hard I thought I'd pass out. I glanced at the bottle in my hand and froze. It was open. The cap dangled loose. My palm was dusted white, as though I'd spilled powder. But I hadn't. I knew I hadn't. I never heard it pop open. The closet door creaked wider. I staggered back. The thing inside was breathing now. Wet, ragged gasps. A sour wind gusted from the crack, reeking of bile and soil. The whispers converged into one voice. Mine. Swallow. My reflection glared at me from the blackened window. My sick, hollow-eyed double, lips moving in perfect unison with mine. Swallow. I clenched my jaw. My teeth rattled with the chewing under the floor. The boards bulged upward, veins writhing across the wood. The fingers in the closet curled tighter. Then another hand slipped out. Then another. Too many. They gripped the floorboards and began dragging the door open. I had seconds. I hurled the bottle at the window. It shattered, but not like glass. It broke like bone, the shards jutting outward, bleeding dark liquid instead of light. The sound was enough to freeze everything. For one heartbeat, the chewing stopped. The whispers cut out. The hands halted mid-grasp. Then the house roared. Not just noise, movement. The walls convulsed. The floor heaved. The ceiling sagged. The whole structure was alive, thrashing, furious. I ran. Out the door, down the stairs, past the kitchen where the fridge howled with rattling bottles. The front door yawned wide, black as a throat. I didn't care. I threw myself through. Cold air hit me like ice water. The night was silent, empty. My lawn stretched pale and dead, the street beyond deserted. For the first time in days, the chewing was gone. I turned back. The house stood quiet, still. Its windows stared blankly. No hands, no whispers, just my dark, ordinary home. I almost believed it had ended. Until I looked down. The bottle lay at my feet, cap tight, untouched, and I felt the weight in my stomach. Heavy, wrong. Pills. I hadn't thrown it after all. I'd already swallowed them. The lawn around me rippled. Soil shifted, bulged, split. Pale fingers broke through the ground, hundreds of them, reaching, clawing. Faces pressed up beneath the grass, screaming silently, their mouths filled with pills instead of teeth. I stumbled back, choking, clutching my gut. My vision blurred. The night itself seemed to throb in rhythm with my pulse. And then I heard it again. The knock. Not from my house. From inside me. 3 sharp raps against my ribs. I dropped to my knees, clawing at my chest, as if I could dig it out before it answered. But it was too late. The thing I tried to keep outside was already in, and it was knocking for the rest of you. So if you hear that sound on your door tonight, don't open it. Don't answer, because it won't be knocking for medicine anymore.